Hi everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Marilyn, sometimes called Maya, and I'm back from Canada. And I couldn't wait to put my t-shirt and flower on. I'm in the garden and it's like 5 o'clock p.m. So this is my wrap up for Mental Health May. And before I tell you what I'm going to do, I wanted to thank everyone who took part in Mental Health May in any small way. And I tried to watch everyone's videos, and I thank you so much for talking about and starting a conversation around mental health. It's so important. And I want to thank my co-host, Kim of Middle of the Book March, for inviting me to do another year of Mental Health May. And tomorrow's the last day of May. So I'm going to do a very unusual type of video. I'm going to talk about not books. I'm going to talk about one book, but what I learned on my vacation about self-care and mental health, because self-care is our topic for this year of Mental Health May. So what were my discoveries? And I'm going to have some pictures that I'm going to put over here just to make it more interesting and show you some pictures of my vacation. Now, the book I'm going to talk about was a book that was on my phone that I had looked over before I left. But since it was the only book I had to read on my trip back home, I really read the whole book. And it's called My Year of Living Danishly, Uncovering the Secrets of the World's Happiest Country. And I'll have a cover put over here along with the other pictures that I am going to show you. So what is it about? Uncovering the Secrets of the World's Happiest Country. That's up for debate, even though they found that the people in Denmark were happier than other people. And there's a lot of reasons why that might be so. There's a lot of perks about being a citizen of Denmark. They pay for your health care. It's like a cradle to grave kind of thing. But it's more complicated than that, and it's not always true. So let me tell you what it says on the tin. When she was suddenly given the opportunity of a new life in rural Jutland, journalist and archetypical Londoner Helen Russel, who's the author, discovered a startling statistic. The happiest place on earth isn't Disneyland, but Denmark, a land often thought by foreigners as consisting entirely of long, dark winters, cured herring, Lego, and pastries. So what is the secret to their success? Are happy Danes born or made? Helen decides there is only one way to find out. She will give herself a year trying to uncover the formula for Danish happiness. I have to say that I didn't enjoy her style of writing. It was very sarcastic, and her husband worked for Legoland, maybe he still works, and she called it the stick place, and she had like always funny things that weren't really funny. And then she would go into a non-fictional description. Maybe it might be a little dry. I didn't find it dry, but and then it was a memoir at the same time. So I felt like she didn't know what style she was really going for. Was she going to go for an emotional memoir? Was she going to go for more non-fiction facts about Denmark? Or was she just going to make jokes all the time about people she met? And what I liked about the book was that you found out that, number one, maybe the Danes weren't that happy, even with the hygge, or how they comfort themselves during the long winters and other things. But it was an interesting read, and I decided to give myself a way of what I thought was comforting to me about my vacation. So sort of it's the year of living Canadian. No, the 2 weeks of living Canadian. And okay, so what did I come up with? So I came up with some tools that I can use for mental health and my tips for self-care. And the first tip I had was, it's never too old to be a tree hugger. When I was young, I hugged trees and kissed them. So I thought, how would it feel if I hugged a tree? It feels really good, as well as being in nature. The best thing, meeting a fellow booktuber in person. And as many of you know, I met Lindy, and she was wonderful in every way, as many of you know. And she hosted me for 3 nights. And, but especially, she showed me all the bookstores, and one called Monroe's, named after Alice Monroe, her family. She lived in Victoria for a long time, where Lindy lives. And the bookstore was just chock full of all kinds of books, and just a pleasure to be. Now, another thing is surprising yourself with how many miles you can walk if you try. And I'll try to have a picture over here. At one point I walked 5 miles, and I haven't done that for many, many years. Well, then I found out that I needed a massage when you don't stretch your muscles enough after walking 5 miles. So yeah, it was a little difficult because I should have stretched before and after. So that's one of my tips. Then we went to Bouchard Gardens, which is a wonderful place in Victoria with all kinds of flowers. So stopping to smell the roses. Well, the roses weren't all blooming yet. It was pretty cold, but there were a few. But there were many flowers of many different kinds in Bouchard Gardens. And I decided to sink myself in to the flowers. Be a little silly. Being silly is good for mental health, I think. And it's always been a way that I have comforted myself. Another thing, getting lost in flowers. Now we have peacocks in Hawaii, but I've never seen a wild peacock preen themselves for, they're called pegans, I think, or hens. And that was an amazing sight, and that I'll never forget. And I think I have a picture over here. I found a broom store. Who would have thunk that brooms could make me happy? But I had never seen a broom store. I mentioned it in the video that I did with Lindy. And my daughter and I were just using the brooms of different kinds and sweeping. And I found out that sweeping with the proper broom can be a comforting thing. And I almost bought the broom, but to send it to Hawaii would have been really astronomical. So who knows, maybe next time I visit, I will definitely buy a broom. I loved Canada because the way they treat their animals was so lovely to see. After we don't treat our animals as nice in Hawaii. And I made friends with all kinds of animals, and I'll have that here. And fell in love with Lindy's animals, especially her dog, because I'm a dog person. So, hi Joni. And there's a picture of her that I took. And we had a lot of fun together. The final thing I want to say is I wrote that finding out that Canada is awesome. What I really meant was that the people of Canada are awesome. And the way they treat people there was a wonderful thing to see. There are some homeless people, even in Victoria, And people don't just, you know, I don't know if you know Another Day in Paradise, but they don't just walk by, or many don't walk by, the song by Phil Collins, Another Day in Paradise. They don't just walk by, but sometimes they actually talk to people, and you feel that it humanizes homeless people. Now, I had a homeless person in my family, not homeless now, but I hope that when he was homeless, that people would have treated him, because he has a mental illness, like a human being, like people should be treated. And I think that's what's so important about Mental Health May and mental health awareness in general, is that we don't treat people as with mental illness or invisible disabilities as well as we should. And maybe by opening up the conversation about mental illness, that it's not a sentence, excuse me, it's not a sentence of you will never be treated like you are, like you're supposed to be treated, like anyone else is supposed to be treated with any other illness. And talking about it, you realize that people like us, and I say me, I have an anxiety disorder with a mental illness, we're just like everyone else. We just have an illness. It's not a death sentence to us. It's not something that makes us, you know, people that shouldn't be spoken to, that people that don't have an intelligence or something to be ashamed of. So I think that's what my goal was for Mental Health Awareness Month, to bring out to the public, to everyone on YouTube, that we should treat people with any kind of illness, whether visible or invisible illness, as we would treat our best friends, our family. Because many times people who have mental illness are in our families. So I want to thank other people too. I want to especially thank Pat from Book Chat with Pat for being so wonderful about promoting us, promoting Mental Health Awareness Month, and writing such wonderful comments. Also, of course, Lindy of Lindy Magpie Reads. She introduced me to so many new things. She introduced me to new foods. She introduced me to how she dyes with vegetables. It's so wonderful to see all of her creativeness. And she knew almost every flower's name, and I'm not exaggerating, in Bouchard Gardens, as well as many, many of the books that were in Monroe's bookstore. And she has introduced me to Canadian literature, and we're going to do another buddy read with Sarah Wallace of Roadworthy next month, of another Canadian author, and I'll keep you posted about that. And just to end, no matter where you travel, because there's pros and cons of traveling. You know, it's almost like work, especially if you have a disability. But yet, you feel so proud of yourself for having stretched your mind, stretched your body. Unfortunately, I didn't stretch my muscles enough. But coming back and to Hawaii, because I was pretty cold in Canada, even though it wasn't really that cold. Victoria is a very mild place, but there's no place like home. So coming back is wonderful, and sleeping in your own bed is wonderful after being anywhere else. And I want to just please subscribe to my channel if you're so inclined. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate if you check the press the notification bell, and please like the video. So until we meet again, and I have a big book haul for all the books I bought in Canada and before I left. So stay tuned for that. And until we meet again, I want to thank Kim and thank Lindy for hosting me, and all the wonderful people on Booktube who have talked about mental health and mental health awareness this month. So until we meet again, aloha.